So good morning, everybody. Where to start? I've got quite a few things on my list this morning, and I'm kind of debating where to start. Well, I'm going to start with Zen XYZ. Does everybody at this point know what Zen XYZ is? Okay, some people do, most people do. Okay, yeah, some people didn't get the secret decoder ring and they don't know. But anyway, what that is a kind of a loosely knit, can we call it a committee, or committee is too formal, but a group of folks who want to be involved in the discussion about the future of wild foxes, the future of particularly of our form, and how we do better at adapting to being online and things of that nature. And it's open to anybody who wants to be involved in it. So if you're interested and you aren't currently on the list, Gary is the keeper of the list. And I think if you get in touch with him, you could be added. Yes. Okay. Thank you. All right, that's one thing. Which leads into the next thing. So those of you who I sent a little something to that group a few days ago, which was a talk given by Brad Warner, and because among other things, we're kind of looking at how Zen interacts with the internet, how other people are presenting or teaching online. And Brad isn't actually teaching. He himself says that he's kind of he's to Zen as Donald Trump is to politics or something. He's the entertainment section. Anyway, well, he's a very bright guy. He studied in Japan with the same teacher that Jundo Cohen studied with. Somebody pointed that out, and but he also used to be a punk rocker, and he's tried to kind of retain that identity and brand it as his sort of outrageous punk form of Zen. And I guess that works to an extent. He has like 2,000 followers. And sometimes he says on a particularly popular talk, he gets 3,000. So that, 14, 3,000, it's pretty close. Okay. So anyway, what he posted was part of it, at least, was about Joan Halifax. People know Joan almost, and so in one of the days after Kamala Harris announced that she was running, Joan posted a little video of herself standing in a sort of Zen vestment and just saying something to the effect of, "You know who I'm voting for." Okay. Now, Brad was upset with that, and he didn't think that that was appropriate for a Zen teacher to express what was essentially a political view. And I'm actually kind of raising this as a question. We're coming into this. This is not a political season, okay? I mean, I think back some of you also can remember what politics actually looked like. These guys want to raise taxes. These guys want to lower taxes. These guys want to increase benefits. These guys want to decrease benefits, and everybody kind of, debates that. And that's not what's going on anymore. Now we got, these guys want to destroy the republic. These guys want to, it's a whole different game being played a whole different way with all the vitriol, the anger, the hatred, all these things that are going on. Different. And the stakes are entirely different. The stakes are very, anyway. Now, so the question is kind of like this, I completely understand what Joan did, because many people, myself among them, there was like a moment of exuberance, the old, as much as anybody might like Joe Biden, the old white guy was standing in the middle of the road, kind of blocking the energy of the party and of the future. And here's Kamala, new energy, new enthusiasm, a woman of color, like, oh, big moment. So Joan was excited and she posted that. And I'm some kind of looking where people think, not about that specifically, but about how much, how much do we veer or not veer into politics? And again, it's really not as far as I see it, it's not politics the way politics were. This really, so much misogyny and hatred and racism and all these things lined up here, that are not politics as we usually understand it, or at least in my lifetime. But anyway, so there are big stakes. There's a lot of emotion, a lot of things. But where does Zen fall in that? I'm going to stop and see if anybody has a thought.
I've been saying a lot in conversations with people that, to me, this has nothing to do with politics, because it's more like the Republican Party right now has been sort of mostly temporarily taken over by one person's ego. And that person happens to want to be an authoritarian, perhaps. But to me, it's anathema, from the Zen perspective, to have everything about one person's ego, and so it just isn't normal politics. And I would sort of be in favor of Zen not getting involved in normal politics, but this is not that, in my view.
The Zendos I've been involved with over the years have avoided this in part out of worry about their nonprofit status. Of course, churches are doing all kinds of things with politics, but nonprofit status has been a factor.
Yeah, yes. And I don't know. Well, we do have one lawyer in the house, you might know, but it's I think there's a difference between engaging in deliberate political activity, like if we all got leaflets for Kamala Harris and started walking around our neighborhoods, in our in our rock suits or something, actually, as opposed to sitting around talking about it. I think we'd have some First Amendment problems if they said, well, you can't sit around and talk about it. But I don't know that, but yes, places have definitely been careful about that. And again, I think people have been careful because one of the things I try to stay away from it, and I don't do as well as I should, is because I would like to somebody who's conservative to be able to come into the Dharma is not liberal or conservative or Republican or Democrat or any of those things. And I would like, it tends to be that people are more sort of liberally inclined that are Zen practitioners. Not always, but I think more often than not. But I would like if someone was, legitimately a conservative thinker, and that I want them to come to Zen because partly my hope would be they couldn't stay conservative after they after they got a little dose of compassion. But we, this should be for everybody. The Dharma is not belong to any one political point of view or political. At least that's my feeling about it.
And Peter, one of the things I found talking, I have some friends who are pretty politically, they love talking about it. And I find that to them, it's again one of the distractions like alcohol, drugs, sex, whatever. It fuels their excitement. Again, it may just be this season of politics, but so I think that on the face of it, I would rather keep them separate. Having said that, many of the things that I am passionate about, taking care of the planet and taking care of the people on the planet, do intersect with politics. So I don't have a solution for that, but that's what I'm thinking.
If you do, Molly, I'm going to call Kamala and have her get you in there as the vice presidential pick. Anyway, she's waiting for me to call this morning to tell her who she's gonna choose. Anyway, yeah, well, those are valid points.
I think what I didn't like about it was the blatancy of it. I'm going to vote for, you vote for it. It was in my face. And that bothered me a lot. Issue driven, discussing something that's so vital, I think, gets a pass in this election and these issues. But there was something very blatant, and that bothered me a great deal. It was taking on too much. We Zens are going to, I thought was cheeky. I think his arguments were better when he stuck to the moral issues, but he kept veering off into the calculus. And by the way, it's not going to work anyway. He must have said that 4 times. Well, what's your argument? Is it the number of votes or is it the moral issue? So I didn't appreciate that kind of veering. But any event, I wouldn't stay away from the issues, and I think it's done well here because those are really discussed with regard to Zen principles. Anyway.
I personally think that, yes, I think that we should, as Zen practitioners, veer away from being blatant and in your face, like you were saying. At the same time, I think as Zen practitioners, with the issues that are raised in this day and age of politics, that it's a great opportunity for us to spread love and kindness and just compassion for our fellow human beings. And even though some of us disagree with a lot of what's going on right now, we can disagree with our kind action. If that makes any sense.
It makes absolute sense. And thank you for saying that. I think that always should be, whatever position we take on anything should be with loving kindness, should be with compassion, should be with understanding, should be trying to be part of healing rather than fracturing. And that's what's going on right now, is so much fracturing. And I don't want to really dwell on Brad anymore, or any of that, but he felt fractious to some extent. Instead of calling out Joan, and so whatever, it's all. Anyway, I just wanted to touch it because it's inevitably in the next, whatever we have now, 95 days or something, it's gonna rear its head. It's kind of no way that, and then God only knows what's gonna happen after that. I'm not making any projections. Okay, so that was that. Yeah. So you've all read the first section of Everyday Zen? Great, great. So let's start there. I have a koan I want to talk about today, which may end up weaving into this, but let's start there. Do people have particular questions, particular observations, reactions? What did you see as you read through that?
A big thing to me is her handling of anger, the momentariness of it as she teaches how to deal with it.
Could you say more, Gary?
Um, so her perspective is that, anger tends to sort of go around in your head and go around and you sort of latch onto it, get more and more angry. And what her teaching seems to be not that anger is in any way bad. She sort of teaches the full feeling of it, but without it going around and around in your thoughts, it doesn't get amplified. It just gets let go of quickly, in her view, and does no harm. But you remain being sort of fully human and emotional, and I like that.
Well, she's very pragmatic, I think, and she doesn't talk in absolutes. So she understands that she doesn't say don't get angry. She doesn't, she understands that anger is a normal human emotion that we all experience, and that it's not inherently destructive, right? But what you say, Gary, and we just kind of talked about that a few seconds ago in the different contexts, that we're amplifying anger constantly now, and sort of the dopamine hits. Molly touched on that. Sort of the dopamine hits that come with that. So people are kind of um, in talking about the politics and it doesn't matter which side you're on. People get angrier and angrier and more divisive and more, um, and and really addicted to that. So she's given us a simple solution to the anger, which is just let it be. It'll come up, watch it, see it, let it go. Very simple. And nobody is hurt by that anger. Right. No, the fact that we have anger isn't hurting other beings. It's when we allow that anger to become amplified and then we express it, we act it out, we inflict it on others. You're going to force me to talk about the koan. Actually, it is. It weaves together, so I'm going to go in that direction, and you'll see it. I think that it all. This is one body. Everything's connected. Okay, so the koan that I want to start with is one that many of you know. Some of you know. Joshu sees through the old woman. It's case 31 in the Muman Khan. A monk once asked an old woman, "What is the way to Taizan?" The old woman said, "Go straight on." After the monk had gone a few steps, she said, This good, honest priest goes off that way too. Later, a monk told Joshu about this. Joshu said, wait a bit, I will go and see through the old woman for you. The next day he went and asked the same question, and the old woman also made the same reply. On returning, Joshu said to his disciples, I have seen through the old woman of Taizan for you. So a lot of interesting aspects to this koan, and there's only sort of one of them that I want to talk about today. But part of what's going on here is this, when she's replying to the monk, she's giving a dharma reply, right? And the monk is asking directions. How do I get to Taizan? And she replies from the perspective of the dharma. Go straight on. He takes it to be a literal direction, and off he goes. Okay. It's actually not, so that's sort of what's going on here. But what's important to me here is that phrase, go straight on. That's been in my mind a lot this week, and of interest to me. And I found a little quote here from Joko that goes right to that point, to that go straight on, go straight on. What does that mean? What does that mean? What is she what is she telling him? And Joko says, our Zen training is designed to enable us to live comfortable lives. But the only people who live comfortably are those who learn not to dream their lives away, but to be with what's right here now, no matter what it is, good, bad, nice, not nice, headache, being ill, being happy, it doesn't make any difference. I'll read that again. Our Zen training is designed to enable us to live comfortable lives. And I sort of disagree with that a little bit. But anyway, but the only people who live comfortably are those who learn not to dream their lives away, to be with what's here right now, no matter what it is, good, bad, nice, not nice, headache, being ill, being happy, doesn't make any difference. To my point of view, that is going straight on. Going straight into our lives, into each moment of our lives, regardless of what is there. Whether it's something we like, something we don't like, something we love, something we fear, right? The possibility of picking and choosing is really an illusion. But we are constantly trying to do that. And we are constantly trying to embrace or evade, right? Oh, I don't want to do that tomorrow, blah, 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 Oh, I'm really looking forward to that, right? We're kind of always being drawn about by our likes and dislikes. Nanchuan said, the great way is not difficult, only avoid picking and choosing. Right? What does that mean? No. Do I have toast this morning or do I have waffles this morning? Or maybe I should have some cereal. That's not what Nanchuan's talking about, right? That's not what Joshu is talking about. I was going to say Chow Chow with that. He's the same guy. But anyway, and right. So what they're pointing to is that we need to fully embrace the context of our lives and live each day fully. Whether it's full of things that we like. It's a beautiful day. I'm going to the beach. That's easy to live fully. Tomorrow I got to go to work. The boss is going to chew me out. I've got to do a boring, repetitive task. Not so easy. Not so easy to embrace. you know? Oh, I feel fantastic today. I'm going to go for a 5 mile run. Oh, I've got the flu. I can't even get out of bed. Okay. So we're constantly making those distinctions, making those discriminations of the things that we like and the things that we don't like, the things that we're trying to embrace and the things that we're rejecting. And what Zen is telling us is to go straight on to whatever it is, to jump in, to embrace it, and to live fully in that moment, in whatever that moment gives us. Now, maybe that sounds nuts. We say, oh, yeah, I want to live those good moments. I like those good moments. For those other moments, no, I really don't, I'm going to. And that's what we're doing today as a culture, right? We're trying to define reality through our personal lens of likes and dislikes. And in order to do that, we have to go to sort of devious means. We have to, alcohol, drugs, and all of the other kind of dopamine altering addictions that we have, things that steer us away from what's unpleasant. We try to go around them. We try to ignore them. We bury ourselves in the internet, which is almost all bad except for wild fox. But rather than living our lives straight on, the good, the good, the bad, the ugly, we're trying constantly to maneuver around, to reframe it. And the consequence is that we do miss our lives, that we do fail to fully embrace and fully live each day, each moment. All those moments that we're rejecting, we're kind of missing. We're wasting, if you will. So we need to show up. We need to go straight on. Go straight in, whatever it is. Fully committed, both feet. And this is what Zen asks us to do. And it's hard. It's not easy. I mean, speaking for myself only, I'm aging. And believe it or not, there are some aspects of aging that are not fun. Right? And yet, being old is something that I am every single day. And I'm getting older every single day. Can't change that fact. I can try to run from that reality, but in running from that reality, I'm running from my life. And in trying to avoid the things I don't like, I'm also avoiding the things that I like. We can't live fully without embracing the whole package. We can't live fully by trying to filter, by holding back, by avoiding, by not being willing to encounter. And it's so tempting in this day and age. Started talking about the political landscape. There's days that I'm absolutely terrified when I look at some of what's happening. There's days that I'm angry. But it's a part of life. It's part of reality. That's where the danger of spiritual bypassing comes in. If I'm going to say, okay, I'm not going to listen to politics today. I'm only going to pay attention to things that elevate me spiritually. I'm spiritually bypassing. It's part of life. It's a part of life I may not like. It may make me uncomfortable, but it's there. Something very prevalent among people that are attracted to sort of Eastern religions can be that what Zen is doing is waking us up to everything, not to some things, not to the things that we like, but to everything. It's calling us to embrace it all, to live it all, to be it all. That's the only way that we can realize ourselves. We can't realize part of ourselves. We can't realize just the things we like. So we're back to the fundamental of the Four Noble Truths, right? Sometimes the first truth is sometimes misrepresented as life is suffering. Buddha didn't say life is suffering, but he did say there is suffering. Dukkha, Sanskrit word, suffering. There is suffering. We all suffer in our lives. Everybody that we know suffers in their lives. Second truth, there's a cause of suffering. Right? So there's a cause of suffering. And the third truth is that there's a path to end suffering. So what's that cause? What's that cause? That cause is our refusal to embrace the things that we don't like, to live fully with the things that we don't like. We try to push them away. We try to ignore them, and that doesn't work. Right? Suffering is not the things that happen to us. It's how we respond to the things that happen to us. If I have the flu and I'm sick and I'm feeling badly, and it's like, oh, I feel awful today. That's what happens when you have the flu. But if I go beyond that, oh, poor me, I get sick so often, my life is so difficult. On and on, nobody loves me. I think I'll eat some worms, and I'm now suffering. Same thing, same flu. In one case, I'm just being sick. In the other case, I'm railing against being sick. I'm fighting it. I'm hating it. And I'm suffering because of it. So it's very simple. All we need to do is go straight on. Whatever the day brings us. Maybe Sunday it's quiet and it's calm and it's nice, and then comes Monday, all the chaos descends again. All the complexity, all the anxieties, all the problems, here they are again in our face. We need to face those both days with the same sort of attitude. The great way is not difficult. Only avoid picking and choosing. Okay, I will pause there.
I do have a question that is always sort of, always sort of confused by a point that I don't have a clear answer, so we don't pick and choose in the moment. We accept whatever there is in the moment we're trying to do. But on the other hand, we are going to make plans for our lives that will lead to better outcomes rather than worse ones. I don't think that that is inconsistent with Zen or what Suzuki Roshi would say, or what you would say. I don't think it is. Maybe it is, but it's not like we actually treat everything as equal in some way, because we do make plans to try to make things more pleasant. And I'm wondering how that sort of fits in.
It fits in exactly, because if I make plans and I attach to those plans and those plans don't come true, I suffer. I'm upset, I'm angry, I'm disappointed, so on and so forth. So it's not the planning. Planning is necessary, right? I mean, it's like, you can't get out of bed in the morning without a plan, right? I mean, we're planning constantly, but it's the attachment to the outcomes. It's the attachment to the outcomes is where we suffer. Okay. And so, yeah, we want to, we're constantly planning. We need to. But the other hand is we don't control outcomes. We can't see outcomes. We can't, our ability to predict things is a kind of our faith in our ability to predict things is a kind of hubris that really is rarely borne out by reality. We seldom really know what's going to happen, what's coming next, so on and so forth. We're guessing. It's almost random in terms of our action. It's like the weatherman. They don't get the weather right 2 hours out, and yet they're constantly predicting. They're going to say, "Oh, tomorrow is going to be sunny." We do that in every aspect of our lives. We plan and we predict. Nothing wrong with that. But if we cling to that, if I thought today was going to be sunny and today's rainy and I get upset about that, I'm suffering. If today I think, oh, it's going to be sunny, I'm going to go to the ocean, and today it's raining, and I go, okay, well, I'm going to read a good book today, I'm not suffering.
I'm sorry.
Stephen Mitchell translated that the great way is not difficult for those who are not attached to their preferences, which is just what you said.
Yes, so you're saying that there are preferences. It's just a matter of not being attached to them. So we still have preferences and make plans to implement what we prefer. We're just not attached, if that.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Yeah. I have a friend that says, don't let them own you. Maybe that's not a good way of saying it, but because we have to plan, but if you become obsessed about the things that you think that you want, you become a prisoner to them. So maybe that's not the right way of saying it, but in reading the book, in a practical sense, that's a lot of what it's become for me. And I think that's a lot of what's driving people today. They think they want this, they think they want that. They're being told or sold that they need certain things. It's almost like they're a prisoner to them, and this can free you from that. At least it has for me.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, that's a lot of what's happening today. But again, we're in this vicious cycle. We're on this squirrel wheel. It's like, okay, we want things, and when both physical things and non-physical things, and then when we don't get those, we kind of run away from that reality because we don't like it, and so on and so forth. We're kind of on that squirrel wheel, of what, we come to the place of avoidance, and then we come back to desire, and then we come back to we don't get our desires fulfilled, and we go back to avoidance, and we're going round and round and round.
Some of the preferences could be, I want my child to grow up healthy, or I want something that's very valid, and life intervenes. And then you can spend your time, or I have spent time, being miserable because life intervened instead of just going on.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's and I don't mean to oversimplify it because it's pervasive and powerful, and we all fall into it constantly.
Peter,
Simple thing. Go ahead.
I'm listening to this. I'm trying to pull the threads together here. I feel like, so let's say you're going to go to a meditation retreat in Arizona and you're looking forward to it. And it's like a whatever, 4-day retreat. And then like you get to the airport and your plane is whatever, canceled, broke, whatever. And you're like, oh yeah, you won't be able to fly out for two more days. So you miss your meditation retreat, right? There's gonna be disappointment. So I think it's just like most people with that disappointment will then call the airline and write emails and try to get someone fired or get some kind of crazy refund or act out mindlessly, I guess, in response to their disappointment, which will probably manifest in some kind of anger, maybe even rage. But I feel like disappointment is just sort of, I think that the goal is not to not have disappointment. It's just, the plane, whatever, the airline, whatever. I can't go to my meditation retreat in Arizona. Oh, I'm disappointed. Oh shit, this sucks. Ah. So it's being with that disappointment, right?
Yes, that's part of the going straight on. Yes. And then letting it go, is both things. We don't want to wallow in it. Look, or I could head to the airport bar and get myself sloshed because I'm, angry and blah, 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 and those fuckers in the airline and, right? Or I can do my best to sort of let go, work through it, and come to a place right and start to say, okay, I'll get myself a nice hotel room tonight and head back to Maine. I don't know, it's kind of like, but what we often tend to do is we get caught in that cycle of being, the disappointment turns into, as you describe, anger, frustration, all of those things. And then they're writing the script, not us.
The book arrived rather late for me, so I only got through the preface and the first 7 pages, but I found it very, very refreshing to read and helpful right away, actually. And one of the things that was helpful to me was her linking of your meditation and her thinking too, that you link yourself with objects. And what she meant by that, I think, in meditation was, there's no overlay. When you bring your mind back over and over and over again, you're not making up any stories. You're simply confronting what's in front of you. And so, writ large, it seemed like what she was saying was simply confront things straight on, go straight at them. It's the overlay of the stories that you begin to tell and so forth that gets you in trouble. It's actually a very brave, I think, way of going through life. This is liable to hurt me, but I need to go forward with it without all the stories around it, and then see what happens. So you meet things straight on. But she linked that with everyday meditation, which I really liked, and everyday practice in general. So the thing is not confronting what's right in front of you, I suppose, including disappointment, but all of the rest of it surrounding that. And meditation helps you to me, at least what you were saying, not get rid of it, but alleviate it, diminish it, and it's a constant thing. So and even if I'm reading it right.
Well, again, it's that idea of going straight on, and you're right. That's a courageous act a lot of the time, when we want to have like contingency plans and all, we tend to overthink things. You know, eh, eh, there were sort of two reasons that that Zen appealed to the samurai. One, which is sort of, one of which was sort of that it helped them deal with their own death. But in another sense, it helped them deal with hesitation, and which anyone who's done martial arts, the difference between a martial arts and somebody who isn't is they don't hesitate. They've been trained not to think their way through things, but to react immediately and in the moment, And that's what Zen is, how do we get off of this? It tells us again and again in many ways, how do we step off of the 100-foot pole? We don't ease off and crawl down. We leap into the next moment, whatever that moment is. If someone's attacking me with a sword and I'm thinking about what's going to happen, my head is coming off before, I get to first base. And so it's not a particularly, I would say, pleasant application of Zen, but it is part of what they liked about it. It's part of what martial arts like about it. It's don't overthink things, we act.
I personally think that this is going to be really helpful for me because I am a chronic overthinker. And it does get me into a lot of trouble. I find myself being attached to the outcome of my goals and aspirations, and I basically think it to death, and it doesn't do me a bit of good. So this is going to be great. This has been very enlightening for me today. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad. And Sid, you're not different than any of the rest of us. We all do those things. That's what, if we weren't human, this would be a lot easier, but we are. We get it.
That's true.
I've been traveling around a lot this summer and listening to a lot of Ram Dass, who I think we did a reading from a bunch of weeks back. And I love Ram Dass, but he one thing he keeps saying over and over again that's really stuck in my head is just so, right? So, the flu, so, my plane got delayed, so. I'm, someone's gonna cut my head off with a sword. So, or Sydney, like, that part of you that's that tiny fraction of you that's not thinking, my brain is working overtime. So.
Yeah, that's good. A good attitude. The problem is often getting there, right? if someone's cuts me off on the highway and I almost die, the first words out of my mouth will not be, ah, so. So, and I mean, Ramdas was so much more involved than all the rest of us that maybe he was there, but I sure as heck am not. So it's also kind of acknowledging our process. We've got to get there. When the powerful emotions come up, when we get big disappointments, when we get terribly afraid, all of those things, that would be nice, but we got to get to it. And so we've got to do the letting go. We got to do the work, to kind of get to where we can have equanimity. I think we talk about equanimity as a state. It's not as a process.
I think you have to start with the smaller ossos first.
Yeah, like, the grass is getting a little long. So.
Also,
Yeah, part of what got me started this morning on some of this stuff was, looking out the window. Let's see, many of you are in Maine right now. A couple of you aren't, but the pace of climate change is absolutely astonishing. In just the space of very few years, Maine is North Carolina. We don't have cold, crisp, clear nights in the summer anymore. We're having hot, humid, unremittingly rain almost every day. I mean, so part of me isn't complaining because the drought is far worse than the rain. The fires are far worse than the rain. And so thank God we've got that. But the climate has moved so much in the space of just a very few years. Very few years. That we should all be terrified. And therefore kind of working with that, right? That's kind of right back to this thing. We need to go straight on. Going straight on right now is acknowledging that things are really radically out of balance and changing very fast. And to a great extent, we're powerless. We're powerless, right? I mean, I can do what I can. I can recycle. I can turn down my thermostat, blah, blah, blah. These phenomena are ignoring me. Deborah,
I cannot avoid my piano getting moldy because of all the wet. There's nothing I can do about that. And I do rant at that because it's ruining the instrument. So there are things I rant at.
Well, okay. So this is, 500 years ago, years from now, I mean, when they have the recorded Zen sayings of Peter Wohl, one of them will be ranting is healthy. I certainly have my rants almost every day. But so these aren't, again, come back to this again. These are difficult times. These are challenging times. Staying awake and going straight on is very hard. Very hard. And everybody has their challenges, and like the young people now have such enormous challenges, and maybe that's not new. I mean, it's not in one sense, but it's a very different world for them. And I'm going to be checking out. I'm not going to be here for the worst of what's coming with climate change, but they are. And and I think they're scared, and they should be. And not to mention the other things like that it's impossible for them to buy a home, and it's kind of things that have shifted in the world. that, you know, it's part of why I wish more young people were, this is part of our XYZ conversation. How do we get more young people to look at the possibility of Zen rather than some of the other less healthy possibilities they might be choosing, because we all need to learn how, and that's the thing that we have here. Look around, look at the people sitting on either side of you. Right? We have Sangha, we have community. That's such a powerful thing. Even when we can't solve the problems, we have other people who validate our experience of them and our frustration and our fear and all of those things. Many people don't have that. The only thing worse than facing this is facing this alone. So whoever said it earlier, we need to constantly spread that compassion, that love, that positive healing energy as much as we can. Any final thoughts? So for next week, we'll dive deeper into Joko. It's such a tragedy. In all my years of Zen practice, Joko never came up. I think she was almost shunned by White, more than just that she left White Plum, but I think she was kind of shunned. Because here she has this book with a lot of wisdom, and I never heard it discussed. I mean, I kind of found it on my own and read it on my own, but not in Zendos. And that's makes me sad. It's a very sad piece of Zen history. Does everybody know what I'm talking about? So it's gonna kind of make more or less. Yes, Sid doesn't. I'll see if I can encapsulate it before you said. She was one of the original successors of Maizumi Roshi, which is our lineage. And she was living as all of them were at that time at Zen Center of Los Angeles. And at the time, Joko Beck's daughter was living with them, living with her. And when her daughter was 19, Maizumi Roshi, who was, I don't know, maybe he was in his 50s at the time and married, had an affair with Joko's daughter. And not surprisingly, Joko was extremely upset and betrayed. And so she left the lineage. She had nothing else to do with the White Plum lineage or with Maizumi Roshi after that. So a very sad thing, because from all I can see, she was a very wonderful teacher and had a lot to offer. And so we're reading that book. You didn't probably hear that either. Well, maybe you heard it. She has a book called Everyday Zen, and we're kind of working our way through it in the dog days of August or whatever these are.
Yeah, I ended up buying it a
Oh,
bit
good.
ago.
Good. Yeah, it's a nice little book.
I'm excited.
Good. Okay. Any other thoughts or questions before we sing our way into the future? Okay.
Creations are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to put an end to them. Reality is boundless. I vow to perceive it. The enlightened way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. Creations are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to put an end to them. Reality is boundless. I vow to perceive it. The enlightened way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. Creations are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to put an end to them. Reality is boundless. I vow to perceive it. The enlightened way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it.